Welcome to Director Pepper Social Club on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where parks and recreation leaders share ideas, experiences, and leadership insights. Today, we're bringing you an inspiring conversation filled with lessons, strategies, and stories that make a difference. Every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where leaders connect and grow. In this episode, Jonathan Papa J. Skinner and Chris Daste share leadership insights, career lessons, and practical strategies for building stronger parks and communities.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Jonathan Papa J. Skinner, and we're here today on Friday. As you know, we have the Director Pepper Social Club, and I'm really excited about our guest today, but I'm excited to be here. You know, I actually finished my second week of being retired, and honestly, it's kind of a cool thing. But I'm really excited about this next chapter in our lives and everything. We'll be talking about that as well. So, a little background, if you don't know about what the Director Pepper Social Club is. This actually started April 4th, 2019 with some partners of mine. Carla, you want to go ahead and bring up the picture? I am in Riverside County down in California. And the gentleman you'll see across from me, that's Kevin the Hawk Hawkins. We started talking and we wanted to find a way that directors can get together and be social. You know, we have our CPRS, which is the California Parks and Recreation Society. We have NRPA, but those happen, you know, annually. We want to do something more regularly. So Kevin said, hey, Brian Ambrose and Jonathan Nix, and why don't we get together and have lunch and talk about, work, but talk about family stuff. And said, okay, cool. So Kevin shows up first. He orders a Dr. Pepper, right? I show up after him. Unbeknownst to him, I love Dr. Pepper. I use Diet Dr. Pepper now because, weight and everything. But anyway, I ordered a Dr. Pepper. The gentleman next to Kevin Hawkins is Jonathan Nix. Jonathan orders a Dr. Pepper. And then Brian Ambrose, who is from Marietta, of Philadelphia, Eagles fan, well, forget that for now. He ordered a Dr. Pepper. Thus, the Dr. Pepper Club was formed. It was really a twofold thing. The second fold of it was to talk about work, the grind of work and everything we have. The first part was to be in the moment with the people that are there. So we would talk about our families. We'd talk about things that are going on in our personal lives. And then we would talk about work. What we found was it made us better communicators. From there, from 2019 to 2026, it's actually expanded to about 20 agencies plus in the Riverside, San Bernardino area. And it's actually expanding out. So we then, created the Dr. Pepper Club. And then when Craig LeBlanc, the mastermind of DPRS, said, hey, Papa John, I heard you're retiring. I'd love to see if you want to do a show on Dr. Pepper Club. I was like, cool. All right. Well, I'm kind of worried about going to jail, copyright and all this other stuff. So we changed it a little bit to be the Director Pepper Social Club. Still the same mindset. We have our guests on that are professionals in the field, and some are going to be from outside the field, and we have some exciting things coming up. But that's really how it's born, and that's what the show you're watching right now. So what Craig has also done is he's got some great sponsors to help us go ahead and keep this message of Parks and Recreation going. So Carlo, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and run our intro commercials, and then we'll be right back.
future of Parks and Recreation isn't coming, it's already here. Across communities everywhere, technology is transforming how parks connect, engage, and serve the people who rely on them. From smart amenities and connected infrastructure to real-time data and innovative solutions, a new generation of parks is taking shape. Welcome to Smart Parks Forward, presented by DPRS Media Network and co-produced by Outdoor Link. Each episode brings you the leaders, innovators, and visionaries driving the future of parks and recreation. Discover groundbreaking ideas, real-world success stories, and the technologies helping agencies create safer, smarter, and more connected communities. Because great parks don't just improve spaces, they improve lives. The future is connected. The future is intelligent. The future is now. This is Smart Parks Forward.
Oh my goodness. You know, Craig, every time, and Craig's in the background, but every time I see our promos, what we do, Dave Ramirez is the host of Smart Parks. He also works for Outdoor Link, and the kind of information that comes out of there, how you can go ahead and, you know, arm your park from your cell phone while you're at home is pretty amazing. So, you know what, Carlo, could you do me a favor, bring up the our list of shows that we have going on? It's pretty incredible. You know, we're just talking off air, and as you can see here, this started as one show that Craig started, which is the Leadership Series, and it expanded from there. When you start looking at Parks and Tech, and there's a great show by Jordan Ziff, who actually does her show while she's driving with a guest who is a professional in the sports field. You know, Safe Spaces, talking about mental health. On the Front Line with Jonathan Prue. You'll hear my dogs in the back. Then you have Youth Sports with Aaron Locks is pretty awesome. The Rec Room, Arts and Parks, and that's something that just started with Beatrice. And of course, Young Professionals Network. And can't forget, because the guy gave me a lot of kudos the other day, the Wesley King, the king of aquatics. I call him Aquaman, but the Aquatics Life that comes on Friday after this show. So very excited about that. One of the things we're trying to do as well, and Carlo, if you can go to the YouTube slide. So what we're trying to do is get to 1,000 subscribers. You know, we do these shows and these episodes, and Craig is putting together a YouTube page that we're going to have all the shows that we have that you can go ahead and watch anytime you want. So we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. This information is up on DPRS or the Daily Parks and Rec Show, LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube. But we'd love for you to be part of the family. You know, you always want to be on the cutting edge. You can be on the cutting edge by joining us and subscribing to the show. So I've talked long enough about that. There's somebody that agreed to come on this who has meant so much to me in my life. And we'll get into that. The dogs are very barking. They're not usually this barky. But Carlo, I sent you a video. I don't even think Chris saw this. It's a reel that I did to promote the show. If you wouldn't mind playing that right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Perfect, Carlo. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy right here, we've been together for many, many years. He actually helped me get to where I'm at today, which is successfully retired. But this person right here, his name is Chris Tiberius, not really Tiberius, but Chris Daste. How you doing today, Chris?
Oh, good. I'm good. I'm just wondering, how far down the list did you have to go to get me on your podcast? That's
well, you know what? The monkey was busy today, so I'm like, hey, you know, Chris is always looking for something to do. So Chris, how I usually start off the show with our guests is I ask, when I'm into Marvel and I'm into DC, and when they talk about their superheroes, they always talk about their origin story, where they came from. So I'm going to give you time to talk about Chris Daste and where he started in Parks and Recreation, all his different, successes and everything to be where you're at right now. And I learned a lot from Chris. One thing I learned is how to retire, but then I also learned how to fail retirement because I'm doing podcasts. So Chris, tell everybody about you and what you do.
Well, I don't want to bore everybody. I think that there's probably a couple of themes that run true that may help somebody that's new into Parks and Recreation or their career. I originally went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and my degree was going to be in recreation administration. There was a class there called recreation programming, and part of it was you needed to go interview a recreation professional, okay, and report back what that was. And so just about everybody in the class was trying to get together with the Parks Recreation director in San Luis Obispo. And I don't want to say anything disparaging, but okay, everybody wanted to go talk to him. Wasn't that outstanding of an individual? I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I looked at the list, and I saw there was a guy named Jeff Anderson from Simi Valley, where I'm from. And so I kind of cold called him, and he said, yeah, no problem, and so I was going to be in town. So I went and I talked with Jeff, and I interviewed him for about an hour. Great guy. And so, from that, Jeff was just basically, hey, look, if you ever need anything, let me know, and so it came time for an internship, and Jeff set one up. They didn't have an official internship program, but he set one up for me. And so I worked at Rancho Simi Recreation Park District for my internship, graduated from Cal Poly. My first job was at the city of Santa Maria doing sports for the city of Santa Maria. And then lo and behold, there was an opening in the Rancho Simi Recreation Park District, and Jeff hired me. Okay, so that kind of got my thing started. And I always think that I wonder what would have happened if I would have just went like everybody else and interviewed the same dude, right? And so I think a lot of it is kind of you can get out of things what you want to put into it. And at the time, I was like, I don't want to get the same old song and dance from this person that I already know, So very grateful for Jeff and that he took his first chance on a 22-year-old kid to be, a full-time employee for Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District. So I worked there for 3 years, and then there was this brand new city that was opening up, Santa Clarita, and it was brand new. I mean, it was just newly incorporated. I think it was the biggest city to incorporate in Los Angeles County, maybe ever. That was in like 1989. I'm an old guy, And so I went over to the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park, to City of Santa Maria, Santa Clarita. Get another beer here. And that was an opportunity to manage. It was a supervisor position, and there would be full-time coordinators that worked for you and worked with you. And so started there. One of the people that we hired was Mr. Jonathan Skinner, and it gave me the opportunity to really supervise. And we're really big on rotating, so you didn't get stuck doing the same thing. And so, I was there as a supervisor for about 8 or 9 years, and I think I had managed all the different programs in recreation, volunteers, youth, adult sports, aquatics, the whole thing. And so what happened there was an opportunity to be a recreation superintendent, and I applied for the job and I didn't get it. Right. So I'm thinking, oh, geez, what am I going to do now? But the thing about recreation and management's management, the tenants are all the same. I had an opportunity to go over to work in public works and field services, learn the city's budget. And then my career kind of went like this. I went from Parks and Recreation. I went over to do the field services and public works. I was a facilities manager with the city, and then wound up being promoted to field services director. So I kind of left Parks and Recreation behind and, was doing stuff like transit and facility management and streets and sidewalks and urban forestry and all that kind of stuff. So that was interesting. And then after that, then I started getting environmental services and these kinds of things. And I remember having a discussion with my city manager after I was doing it for, a few weeks. And I'm meeting with my managers, and they're talking about in very, specific things. There's a stormwater utility, the NPDES permit, transit, TDA Article 8 funding, and all these kinds of things. In my head spinning, And so I remember talking to my boss. He says, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing okay." I said, "But before, when someone in recreation would come in with an issue, I knew what the answer was before they were finished, because I'd been doing it, long enough." I said, "Now, man, I don't know what the answers are. I got to talk to, and really work to see what the correct way to go is." And his name is Ken Polskamp, the city manager, great guy, love him very much. And Ken looked at me and laughed and said, "Chris, for the rest of your career, this is what what it's going to be. You're never going to know the answers, but I'm expecting you to be able to ask the right questions to get the answers. So you're out of your comfort zone, dude. Just, know what to do to get the answers." So, so my career went from public works, then I went back to Parks and Recreation. I worked with the city of Elk Grove, the city of Tracy, city of Burbank, city of Bell Gardens. I kind of went all over the place. And then my last position was with the city of Roseman as a public works director there. And so I guess what I want to tell anybody that's new into recreation is that unless you just love something to death, don't pigeonhole yourself. The tenets of management work across anything that you're doing, whether it's youth sports, adult sports, aquatics, and it transforms into other things too, if you want to do something else that's not even related to Parks and Recreation. So, if you keep your eyes open and you don't want to pigeonhole yourself, you've got tons of opportunities, so, and if a hack like me can do that, anybody can, so I think that's the lesson learned there.
Well, that's a great lesson. And, as Chris is talking, if you guys don't know this, I take notes and stuff for questions to come forward. One of the things I didn't know is how long you knew Jeff Anderson.
Yeah.
Jeff Anderson, and that's that whole 7 degree of separation. Our intersection, my intersection with Chris, is actually Rancho Simi. I worked in Beverly Hills, and I ended up going to no, actually, it was Agoura Hills. I started in Agoura Hills after Beverly Hills. I did things with 2 names. I don't know. It was all that whole thing. So I was there getting some really great experience in Agoura Hills, and a position came up in Santa Clarita. Again, another 2-word city. So I started there as a coordinator and worked under Chris and Ken Polskamp and George Caravallo, who is, I would say, one of the best city managers I ever worked for. Because he gave me some opportunities, and it's exactly like Chris had said, not pigeonholing yourself. I actually did a stint while I was still a coordinator. I did a stint as the assistant to the city manager because Terry had went out on maternity leave, and they needed somebody for a couple of months to go ahead and sit in. And I learned a lot of things from Terry and the city manager. So when I was working for Chris, he's going to hate this because they talk about this stuff all the time. He gets this vein in his head. When he gets mad, he gets this vein in his head. And the whole thing with the rank and file is says, okay, whatever you do, don't get the Daste vein. And and I got it once or twice, to be honest with you, because I deserved it. And I was a new kid, and I always wanted to be kind of be like Chris, because he was my superhero. Anyway, so I'm there. I'm doing doing some stuff with the city manager's office. I'm also running camps and sports and those kind of things. Chris brought me to his office one day, and he goes, "Okay, Skinner, you got 4 to 6 months to get out of here." And I'm like, okay. He explained what he was talking about. He felt that I have a lot of opportunities to achieve more than I was doing there. So he actually helped me by forcing me to look outside my comfort zone, and being able to do that, I was able to get a job with Jeff Anderson in Klein Village in Tahoe, and learned a lot of stuff from Jeff. I ended up working for his wife, Mary Beth Anderson up there in Incline Village, and then, progressed to Reno and then down to San Diego to, finishing up in Lake Elsinore there. So that whole 7-degree separation, I never imagined it would be so intertwined on the things that working with Chris and everything. Carlo, could you bring up the picture of Chris, myself, and Troy Brown? There we go. So at my retirement party, Chris came down. Troy, actually, they live in about the same area, Moore Park, Simi Valley, and they came down. This incredible trio, we worked together under Chris. At the time, Troy Brown came in. He worked for UPS, right? His last name is Brown, and we used to call him the Brown Man because his last name is Brown, and he worked for UPS, who wears brown uniforms.
And what can Brown do?
Yeah. And so he started as a I don't know, in recreation.
He was a rec coordinator. Started off as a rec coordinator. I mean,
so
he was part-time, and then he got hired full-time, and then just shot past all of us.
Yeah. And so this goes along to what Chris was saying is don't pigeonhole yourself. To fast forward with Troy, he ended up retiring as the city manager for Moore Park, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was the president. This is the president, right? For ICMA, which is the International City Managers Association. He's a public speaker right now. He's doing some ad hoc work with a college and everything like that. So, don't pigeonhole yourself thinking that this is the only thing that you can do. I think Chris hit on something really key and I think it was either you or maybe it was Rick. What was Rick's last name? I can't think of Rick's.
Putnam.
Rick Putnam.
Yeah.
And he said, if you can do recreation, if you can do parks, recreation, and community services, you can do anything. It just shows. Troy went on to be a city manager. Chris went on to be a director of public works. So this is a great opportunity working in recreation to get to that next level. I'm glad you got a barking dog because I got a barking dog too. It gives you an opportunity to get to that next level. So, Chris, what would you say your biggest flex, if you will, going from recreation that you were able to transfer over to those other departments? And I love your comment. I wrote it down here. You may never know the answer, but you got to be able to ask the right question. So, what's your biggest flex that you took along with that?
Well, I just think that when you're put in a situation where you're in charge of areas you don't have the intricacies of, then you just have to fall on common sense, right? And so sometimes they say common sense isn't all that common, but you have to trust your employees, you have to trust your managers, the people that you're working with, to present and illustrate the entire picture of what you're talking about, right? So I was lucky in that I had outstanding managers that I was working with. Bob Murphy in transportation. I learned so much from working with him, to be able to discuss the issues, the pros and cons, what would you do? I think the other thing that I would say is embracing people that have an opinion. There was a guy in Santa Clarita, an engineer named Chris Price. And Chris, I loved having Chris in meetings because Chris would say, a lot of times people present, well, you can do this, you can do that. And Chris would go, look, there's other ways to go, but if it were me, I would do this. Thank you. I love somebody that has an opinion and can tell you why they have it. And hopefully as a director, whatever, you embrace that. You might not always like what they're having to say, but I loved having someone to have an opinion, And so those were some of the things, just be able to try to get the whole illustration and that kind of thing. And, I think that what I thought I was pretty good at was talking with my staff and illustrating, yeah, I know you guys want to do this, but I can't, and here's why. And by the way, sometimes I can't tell you why I can't do it, because there's things I know that I can't disclose, and so you just have to trust me that, yeah, there's some reason why we can't do that, and it's either political or whatever, but I think it's important that your staff has an idea of why you're doing what you're doing, and then I think the thing that transferred, no matter what you're doing, is recognizing that if employees that you work with have a say in the policies that you're going to be trying to enforce, rather than having policies shoved down their throat, if you could work with them on trying to conjugate what that policy is and why it works, you're going to have better buy-in, and you're going to have something that is actually applicable. You can see in any organization when a policy will come down the pike that doesn't make any sense, immediately your staff is starting to think of ways to override that policy. Immediately, if it's some stupid registration policy that XYZ, well, shit, let's see what we can do to slide them in, because the policy didn't make sense in the first place. So I think there's a lot of universal things, no matter what department it is, of how you develop policies and how you develop procedures, making sure your staff has buy-in, or at least an understanding of why you're trying to accomplish it, rather than the people up top just saying, this is what we're going to do. Well, good luck. See how that works out for you,
And I get, I've always taken that with me, Chris, is that, the more buy-in they have, the more they want to be successful. And I've used that all the way through. One of the things that I learned a lot of things from Chris. One of them is he has sayings. He always has sayings. And one he didn't even know that I created, but he'd look, when I first started out, I was always wanted to make sure that I was on top of everything. And then Chris would look and go, Skinner, don't worry about the horse being blind. Just load the cart. And I'm like, okay. And then after a while, I realized what that was. And that was from John Madden, right?
Yeah.
So, the whole thing about focus on what you need to do. Don't worry about, what X, Y, and Z is doing over here. Sometimes you have to, but a lot of the times focusing on those things is where your job doesn't get done correctly, and I appreciated that. And I've used that ever since I heard that from Chris 9,000 years ago. First of all, when he says he's the old man, I'm actually 3 months older than him. So he really needs to let that part go. Chris would say things, and I developed one, which when I go and speak at different conferences and that kind of stuff, I talk about the Daste rule of 3 to 5. And we were just talking about that before it came on. He goes, well, what's this Daste rule of 3 to 5? I said, oh, I never told you this. So Chris would talk about, again, when I was younger, when I was starting up in the business, I wanted everything to be perfect. Whether it was registration, whether it was getting kids in line, whether it was, dealing with X, Y, Z, I wanted it to be perfect. And Chris looked at me and he goes, you know what, Jonathan, 3 to 5% of the people are going to complain about everything. The sun is too shiny. The grass is too green. The park is too fun. They're always going to complain about that. 3 to 5% of people are going to complain about that because they really don't have things in their lives to be happy about. The ones we need to focus on is the 95 to 98% of people that, one, we probably never will hear from because they're happy about what they have. Or we'll get, the obligatory person will come to city council and say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate the park that you have here. A real quick story is, and then we're going to go to break. Real quick story is, over here at Lake Elsinore, before I left, I was able to attend the last Mother's Day function for the senior center. So I was there and I was interacting with people and they go, oh, Jonathan, you're going to retire. And like, yeah. this lady came up to me. I know her in passing. She goes, Jonathan, so I heard you're retiring, but I want to tell you something. Okay. She told me about her husband passing away last year and how much she appreciated that the city had put on a summer concert series, because she was really in a depression and a funk because the person that she was married to for 50 years had passed away. But because of what the city had done and putting together a concert series, helped her come out of that and help her make new friends. And again, we were just doing it because it's really good for the whole community. We did it with her. She was able to come and experience it and get excited about it. She was so happy when she saw me and seeing all the people that were there at the senior center. Those are the reasons we do things like that. You know, a lot of times the Parks and Recreation, you really can't put a price tag on it because we really nurture the soul. We make memories happen. So, okay. So, man, this is a really good conversation. I haven't really got to the meat yet, Chris. So we're gonna take a break right now, and Carlo's gonna run some more promos, and then we're gonna come back with Chris.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
Oh man, thank you. So Dave Ramirez from Outdoor Link, really appreciate all the Outdoor Link support. Aaron Locks with Youth Sports Mastery. I love that. I grabbed this from Chris too. When you're not just a recreation leader, you're not just a recreation coordinator. You are the frontline person that gets to meet those people that come to. They bring their kids to day camp. My kids are at day. My grandkids are at day camp right now. I love those people. They take care of them. When they come back, they're so excited about the things that they learned, and they're tired. So that way they go to bed earlier. So Chris, I really want to get a little personal on this. Carlo, could you bring up the picture with Chris and his boys? So, Chris and I have kids around the same age, actually. A little thing about Chris, and I go off on tangent on this. Chris is really instrumental to me. He's like my brother. When I was working with Chris, I had got engaged to my wife. I've been married 34 years now, but we had challenges. She's white, I'm black. There was individuals in our families that were not very happy with it, and it actually caused some challenges with me at work. Chris was there for me the entire time, being able to have heart-to-heart conversations, to be able to realize that it's really about Janelle and I and not everybody else. Again, load the cart. Don't worry about the horse being blind. Don't worry about everybody else's feelings. Just load the cart, figure out what you're going to do. Chris was there at my wedding. His boys there. And I want you to talk about your boys. And I actually I found a picture of you and Carly too. So, but we have this when Tyler was born. We had a secretary. I can't remember her name. Remember, she called him Tyron.
Tyron, yeah. I can't remember who it was either, but yeah, Tyron.
So talk about your boys, Chris.
Well, before I talk about my boys, I want to touch on something that I've admired about you, and I think it's a lesson to all of us, okay? And that lesson is the power of forgiveness, okay? You went through a lot when you were, marrying Janelle, very deep personal stuff that you had to endure. Now, I haven't forgiven those folks, okay? Because I don't have to. But you, with your power for forgiveness, I look at all the amazing things that have happened since you were able to forgive these people, right? And I just want everyone to know that forgiveness is for yourself. It isn't for them. But for you to be able to get past that, forgive, and live your life in a healthy way, I've just admired that so much about you, and I've used you as a lesson for me when I think I've been wronged, to be able to forgive. That's really the key to your health and being able to move on and live a healthy life. So, you talk a lot about what you learned from me. Well, I learned that from you, the power of forgiveness and be able to move on. So if there's a lesson anybody can take out of listening to this podcast, it would be that. I really admire you for that. So,
well, thank you.
My kids, it's like anything else. Unfortunately, I went through a divorce, and they were at this age when all that was going on. I've got Cody on the right. If you look at number 5, on the left is Dylan. I also have a daughter named Carly. As when you have kids and someone asks, how are your kids doing? To me, it's like this. Well, right now, everything's pretty good. Right now, everything's pretty good. They've all exceeded anything that I've ever thought I would ever, achieve. Cody on the right, very bright dude. Went to junior college, was kind of bored with it and said, hey, Dad, I'm kind of bored with this. I'm going to go into the Air Force. He tested off the scales. They said, hey, you can do whatever you want to do. He said, hey, I want to do air traffic control. They said, that's great, dude. But it's a 6-year stint. It's got a 90% washout rate. And if you wash out, you're going to be doing something else. And he bet on himself. It made sense to him. Got out. Now he's, working for the FAA, making more money than I ever made. He's down in San Diego. And then Cody played quarterback at Senior High, and I think he's still in a couple record books there. Dylan, married to beautiful gal Riley, 3 wonderful grandkids. What a blessing that is. Dylan, bright dude, graduated from Western Colorado University. He runs Cinema Air, which takes care of doing HVACs at the movie studios. He's got a million movie star stories. Who's really cool, who's not really cool, spending time with people like Jim Carrey and that kind of stuff. So really cool stuff. And then my daughter, Carly, she's a hard charger. She graduated from University of Texas. She is now an HR director for a large corporation at 25 years old. Hard charger. Congratulations, you're the director now. You get to lay 100 people off. They're going through a lot of stuff there, but She's I always tell her, you know, she's very pretty, but you know, when you are very bright and you're hardworking, it's a deadly combination. You know, so she outworks anybody. She puts in tons of hours, develops stuff on her own. Very proud of her. Very proud of all my kids. You know, so right now everything's doing great. And you know, there they are. That was after I referee high school football and basketball. I think I had a game in Ventura, and they actually, during the holidays, they actually all got to come and watch me play. So that was getting some tacos afterwards years ago. That was a long time ago. Look how young I am. Holy smokes. Anyway.
Oh my God. A couple of side stories. One, I love the dynamic that I have with Chris and Troy Brown. And I wish I could find the picture, but Chris and Troy have this real kindred. You know, they play golf together. They do a lot of things together. We used to go water skiing with Chris and Troy, but Chris and Troy, one Halloween, they dressed up as Pulp Fiction. And I swear, when Chris puts on that wig, he looks exactly like John Travolta, and Troy looked like Samuel L. Jackson, just a really skinny Samuel L. Jackson. But, you know, having so much fun. Chris and I, hold on real quick. Janelle, come here. Look who's on the screen. I do this sometimes when she comes home. It's Janelle.
What's up, girl?
Okay, now she's gonna take care of the dogs. But Chris and I, our kids are close in age. We used to go over to Chris's house, and they had this little plastic pool in the backyard. And I remember Brianna and who's the oldest? Is it Dylan?
Cody.
Cody, and they would be playing in the pool and everything. And then, you know, my son Tyler went into the Air Force as well because he wanted to get some structure and everything. And you know, he's in Texas now. So we have a lot of things that interact and interchange with that. So one of the things I asked as well, Chris, is what's been your biggest success in Parks and Recreation, and what is that one thing that you learned the most of that maybe didn't go the way that you wanted it to go?
You know, I think one of the things that I was able to do, there was a big event in Santa Clarita called the Cowboy Poetry and Music Festival, and there were some issues as that was working through, and so I was put in charge of working with the person, very bright and talented guy, to work with him and get the event on budget, increase efficiencies of the event. You know, and by the time it was over with, I was really proud of the strides that we made, you know, and so I'm just glossing over it, but there's a lot of work that went into getting that event on the right rails, you know, and so I was proud of the strides we were able to make in that. As far as the other one, I'm going to tell a fable. It's about, give me just a minute and a half, and I'll tell you.
You got it. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Okay. So Ken Polskamp told this to me when I was going through some disappointments, and the fable is this: go back a couple thousand years. There's a small Chinese village, and the richest man in the village was this old Chinese man, and he had a horse. And back then, no one had a horse, and so you could do all the work, plow fields, all this kind of stuff because he had a horse. And so one day he wakes up and his horse jumped the corral and took off. And everybody gathered around and said, "Oh my God, it's horrible news. You were the richest man in the village and you've lost your horse. That's horrible news. We'll try to help you, but man, we're really sorry for your bad news." And the old man said, "Yeah, perhaps." I'm like, perhaps? It's crazy. You know, they walked away. Then the next morning they wake up. That horse came back and brought back another horse. And they're like, "Oh my God." They all gathered around. "You are the richest man in the entire region. Like, this is crazy how rich you are now." The old man said, perhaps. Like, perhaps. And they walked away. They couldn't believe it. So then the next day, his son is trying to break that new horse and gets thrown off the horse and breaks his leg. Breaks it. Well, back then, your son did all the hard work. This is an old man. Now his son's got a broken leg. Who's going to plow the field? Who's going to do all the hard work? And they all gathered around and said, "We're so sorry for your horrible news. We'll try to help you, but my goodness, this is just awful news for you." And the old man says, "Yeah, perhaps." And they're like, "What? This dude is smoking crack. What do you mean, perhaps?" So then the next day, the Chinese army comes and they take every able-bodied son to go fight off in some far away war, except his, And so the lesson there is that you never know when you're going through life what's good news and what's bad news. You've got a plan. Good things happen, bad things happen. I, for one, the best thing that ever happened to me was not to get that recreation superintendent job. I was devastated when I didn't get it. Devastated. But from that point on, I was able to, switch my career, and my career just shot past what I was hoping to get as a recreation superintendent. In a very short amount of time, I was a director, and I would have been a superintendent down here for who knows how long, and learned all these other things. And so, I was devastated when I didn't get that job, and everybody that's going through a career here, you're going to go for jobs you think you should get, or you want to get really bad. You're not going to get it. Now what? That's a perhaps. Maybe it's bad news, but maybe it's good news. Maybe it leads to other things. And so that adage was shared with me when I was maybe 30 years old. And I'm telling you, I'm 62, and I think about it all the time. When I'm getting too wrapped around the axle about something I want to have happen and it doesn't happen, I always take a deep breath and think perhaps, maybe there's a reason why. Maybe there's a reason why that car deal fell through. Maybe that car was going to blow up or whatever. So I hope anybody listening to this can just take that perhaps thing and apply it. And it's a lifelong lesson to me, so anyway.
That's a great story. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
I listen to all your stuff. I even make up stuff about you too.
I think you were gone by the time that went down. So, yeah.
Well, and I always give my 2 cents. The best thing that I've learned from you and others is the best thing you can do is train your team to be the best team they can be, because at some point in time, you're going to leave that organization. And hopefully, if you've done your job correctly, they're either in the top running or they're in the running at another place where they're going to be more successful. That goes to that perhaps. I'm very fortunate that in several of the different agencies I work for, the person is there's been people there that's either been able to take my position and take it to a different level, or take it and another organization, another door opens up, as you mentioned, and they're successful. One thing I learned from Rick Putnam, who was a great director, very awesome, very centered, I would say. I never heard him really raise his voice. You might have heard it, but I've never.
No, yeah, I've heard it. Rick's the best amongst the best professionals I've ever worked with. Rick, I want to share you a couple of Rick adages when you're done. Rick's amazing. Yeah. Okay.
Well, mine's really quick, and it's me starting off, and I had two really great people, Chris and Rick. And I remember I was all frustrated about something that was going on, and he's like, "Jonathan," he said, "Yeah, Rick." He says, "Did anybody die during this event?" I go, "No." He says, "Then it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay that things don't work your way. You know what you do? You learn from that, and you make the next one better." I've taken that with me, because if you're not, and I think, I'm not sure if it's you or somebody had told me this one, if you're not failing, you're not trying. Mm-hmm. You're not really doing it, because you're doing cookie cutter, and that's not really getting the people that new excitement, that new car smell that they're looking for. Running campgrounds is the same kind of thing. I learned a lot from Santee Lakes when I was there, is that you don't do everything at once. You do things incrementally, because if you have that new car smell every 2 or 3 years, that means those people that came in the beginning are going to come to find out what's the next new and best thing. So let's hear your Rickisms.
Well, what I learned from Rick is a few things. Is that when you're a director or, you know, a place of authority, you need to be generous with your staff, you know. So, and what I mean is when something goes really well, they did it. It was them that did it. You know, if so, oh no, that was Marissa that did that. She's awesome, right? You need to be generous. And then one thing, and it still breaks me up, is that it's your department. So if something doesn't go well, it's not them, it's you. Okay, that comes with the big bucks, right? And you know, and then the other thing is, really good employees are doing a lot of stuff. Okay, they're doing a lot because they're really good. Guess what? When you do a lot of stuff, sometimes something doesn't go right. Okay, because you're doing a lot of things, right? And I remember I was in his office, Rick's office, about something, and I'd screwed something up the day before or something. You know, it was just something that got through. And city manager calls, George Carvalho, one of the greatest guys ever, calls Rick, and George is trying to follow up, hey, what's going on with XYZ? And Rick's like, oh yeah. Remember yesterday I told you that I screwed up XYZ? Well, Rick didn't screw up XYZ. I screwed up XYZ, you know, and it still breaks me up. But when you're a director, when you're a leader, you take the heat for what your employees, when something doesn't go well. And nothing's worse than working for somebody that's the opposite. When you bust your ass on something and they take the credit for it, when they screw something up, but they're pointing the finger at you. So, you know, when you're in a position of power, you need to be a giving person, you know, and you need to just allow your employees to be their employees. I never in my life, when an employee said they wanted to take vacation, ever said no. My assumption is if you're taking vacation, that you've got your stuff covered, right? You know, so I'm assuming that, you know, who's a go-to person, great, have a good time. But I'm never going to micromanage. Hey, well, let's talk about that. You know, what do you have going on? No, they're big people. They need to take vacation. Just make sure your shit's covered, you know? Mm-hmm. So, excuse me, I said the S word, but those are a lot of things that you know, that it's just important. I just can't say it again. Nothing's more disempowering than a boss. I had somebody who was horrible. Okay, if I wrote the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, she would change dog to, let's change that to canine. You know, there was absolutely nothing I could do that she wouldn't want to change, tweak. How about this? When you've got good people, let them be creative. The goal is this. I don't care how we get there. Just let's get there. And so if you have employees that buy in and they have a way to want to get there, let them go. It's going to inevitably be better than what you thought of, you know? So anyway, I could do that stuff forever.
Yeah, he can. And the thing is, what I want everybody to understand is, and I don't want to get all emotional, but I will. Chris, what he talks about now, I've seen him for over 35 years because we were together before Janelle and I got married. And this emotion that he has is passion. And when you have a director or you have a leader that has this kind of passion, it's infectious. Chris, if you don't know this, that's the same thing that my team goes, Papa Jay, why do you do that? And what I do is, you know, when people come up and do that to me, say, hey, Jonathan, I really love this. Okay, well, you know, talk to my bosses over there. Oh, the council? Oh, no, talk to Bo or talk to Allie or talk to Ben. They're the ones that created this thing. I shake hands and kiss babies. I do that very well. So if you're thanking me for that, I'll take that. But if you're talking about the people on the ground that do the work, put in the hours, that's the ones you need to thank. And, you know, I do a session, actually, I'm doing a session on celebration in our PA with some friends of mine. And that's what we talk about, is making sure that we're celebrating the people who put in the time and the effort. But we also go a step further as we actually look at the management. we couldn't do what we do at Winterfest or Mariachi Fest or those without having a council who believes that we, if given the right tools, we can do the right things. So we talk about different kind of um, um, events that we've had and celebrations that we've done for rank and file or volunteers all the way up to city council, because it is a secular thing. We can't do this without this. We can't do this without this. But making sure that we take time, the old saying is take time to smell the roses. I want them to smell an entire garden, because and they need that time away. If you don't give them that time away, it's this thing called, what's it called, Chris? I didn't know. Burnout. Yes, burnout. And when that burnout happens, doesn't matter how many fire departments you have, you're not going to put that out, Oh my goodness. So Chris, looking at your illustrious career, that great hair that you still have that I unfortunately lost many, many years ago, you gave some pearls of wisdom for those who are getting into the biz. With both of us being on the other side and looking at other options there, what would you tell people that are maybe in the latter part of their career looking forward to retirement? What's the best way to look and be ready for that leap?
I guess the blessing is, to me, when you get to the point where you're done, there's part of being a department head or whatever is doing council presentations and making presentations. And in a perfect world, you've got 5 people that are just trying to get the right thing done in this. And unfortunately, sometimes you're on city councils that are political, and you've got people that are challenging, right? But that's the job. Okay, that's the job. It's like The Godfather. This is the life we've chosen, And so in my case, it was after, 39 years of going, man, I got to do this council presentation and I'm going to get my butt kicked. And then it hits you. Wait a minute, Chris, that's the job. That's the job. And then you're like, I don't want to do the job anymore, and so that was the blessing of that. I'm going, okay, I'm tired of this, and so not that it was anything worse than anything else I've been dealing with my whole career, but you get to a point where you just kind of take a deep breath and go, it's time for something else, So, again, perhaps it sucks when you get to that point, but it's also kind of good when you get to the point you're like, I'm good, and so that was mine. I started in '86, and I've been in the business a long time, done a lot of things, been interim assistant city manager, been interim city manager, done that stuff, and okay, I'm good. So that's the blessing. And I think that the real blessing is the relationships that you've had with people. I mean, I look at, like Marissa Garcia in City of Burbank. She's so much better as a director than I ever was, but I got to work with Marissa and watch her grow when I was in Burbank. And I look at Bill Whitkoff, over in Cucamonga as the public works director. Bill and I work together, and I see how amazing he is. And it's just so cool to see people like you that I've worked with that have just gone on in their careers to just kick butt and be way better than I ever was, So that's the stuff I get to take with me, as I think about these successful people. Troy Brown's another one, that these people that just exceeded anything you've ever done, And so that's what I smile about in my career, is just the people that are still in it, kicking butt, and the success that they've had. I mean, it's really fun to see that.
Yeah, for me, it was really difficult. So the story. I had a discussion on whether I should stay or go. City of Lake Elsinore. It's retirement is. I could retire at 60. I was 63. I really wanted to get going with stuff. I had a lot of personal things happen. Some really important people passed away in the last year or so. And it's kind of like Chris. I took a reflection and go, is this, really what I need to do for the next couple of years just to get to 65? And Chris is one of those that I reached out to, and Troy. and John Prue, people that have just gone through the retirement. And, it's that for me, it was that fear of the unknown. I've done this. I've been in this field since I was 7.5 years old. What am I going to do? And thanks to you and other people, it's softened the blow. Craig LeBlanc is a prime example. I have a show once a week that I get to prep for. So I still have a job. It's not paid, but you know what? I get to talk to really cool people like Chris Daste. But anyway, Chris, man, I definitely want to have you on again in the future. I think we just kind of scratched the surface of our friendship. We haven't even done any voice characterization, so we have to get to that. It's give me a Pall Mall, unfiltered, of course. But anyway, listen, it's been great talking to you, Carlo and the team. I want to thank you guys for being there and getting us all ready. The next show next week, I'm pretty excited to have Sean Brock. And Sean Brock is the general manager of the Lake Elsinore Storm. And I've been with him for the last several years. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No, I'm going to say you actually have somebody. You have somebody next week, so that's good.
Yeah, so, but it's very exciting. I appreciate Craig for the opportunity to do this. I'm excited about in a half hour, there's going to be somebody up here with his great show, the Aquatics Life. I call him the Aquaman, Wesley King. I want you guys to have a great weekend. Go out and make a memory with either your friends, your family. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you later.
This episode is brought to you by SDSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. SDSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
It's not just water. It's responsibility. It's leadership. It's not just drowning prevention or water safety. It's life. And every day, aquatics professionals make decisions that save lives. Because aquatics is more than swim lessons. It's community. It's creativity. It's impact. For over 30 years, aquatics hasn't just been my profession. It's been my life. I've seen the challenges, the pressure, the grind, but I've also seen the power of great leadership and what happens when communities come together. This is where education meets entertainment, where real conversations happen, where aquatics professionals come together to learn, lead, and grow. Because aquatics should bring people together. This is Aquatics Life, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders. An audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.